The roar of the waterfall never stopped, day or night, a constant thunder that drowned out memories Samuel Reed wished he could forget, yet somehow kept him alive when silence would have finished the job. On the edge of a steep ravine in rural Montana, where mist clung to pine trees and sunlight broke only in narrow, trembling beams, a broken veteran lived alone in a collapsing cabin that most people pretended not to see. They said the falls were beautiful, but to Samuel they sounded like everything he had lost, crashing over and over again without mercy. If you believe in silent heroes, second chances, and the quiet strength of those the world overlooks, take a moment right now to like this video. Leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel so more stories like this can be told. Samuel had once been a respected combat medic, the kind of man others trusted with their lives in the worst moments imaginable. He had learned to stay calm under fire, to move forward when fear screamed at him to freeze, and to hold on to life even when it slipped through his fingers. But when he came home to the United States after his final deployment, the war followed him back in ways no parade or thank you could erase. Nightmares stole his sleep, guilt hollowed out his chest, and the man he used to be felt like a stranger he could no longer reach. His marriage collapsed quietly. His job slipped away after too many missed days, and one by one, the connections that tied him to ordinary life unraveled. The only thing that stayed was his dog, a weathered brown and black shepherd mix named Ranger, adopted from a shelter when Samuel still believed companionship might save him. Ranger became his anchor, his reason to wake up, his silent witness. When Samuel ran out of money and choices, he retreated to the edge of town, buying the cheapest land no one wanted, right by the roaring falls. The cabin was barely standing, the roof patched with rusted metal, the floor warped by years of damp air. Locals whispered that anyone who lived so close to the falls was either desperate or unstable. Samuel didn't care. The noise helped. It kept his thoughts from circling too tightly. Days passed slowly. He chopped wood, fished when he could, and avoided town except when supplies ran out. People saw him sometimes, a limping figure with a dog always at his side, and quickly looked away. Broken men made others uncomfortable. What no one knew was how close Samuel was to giving up completely. The falls tempered him on his darkest nights, their endless pull matching the weight in his chest. Only Ranger's steady presence, his warm body pressed against Samuel's legs, kept him grounded. The dog seemed to sense when the past threatened to swallow his owner whole, responding with quiet insistence, nudging, leaning, refusing to let Samuel drift too far inward. One cold morning in early spring, after days of heavy rain had swollen the river above the falls, Ranger began acting strangely. He paced near the tree line behind the cabin, whining softly, pulling against the worn leash whenever Samuel tried to guide him back. At first, Samuel thought the dog had caught the scent of an animal, but Ranger's behavior was different, focused, urgent, against his better judgment. Samuel followed, carefully navigating slick rocks and mud as they moved upstream. The roar of the falls softened slightly as they climbed, replaced by the rush of fast-moving water through narrow channels. Ranger led Samuel to a spot hidden by dense brush where the earth had collapsed inward, exposing a dark opening partially concealed by roots and stone. Samuel froze. The ground here was unstable, dangerous. He called Ranger back, but the dog stood firm, barking sharply, eyes fixed on the opening. With cautious steps, Samuel approached and peered inside. The smell hit him first. Old metal, damp wood, something forgotten. Using a fallen branch to steady himself, he pushed aside loose debris and saw what looked like a reinforced hatch, rusted but intact, embedded into the hillside. His heart began to race, not from fear, but from the strange familiarity of it all. He recognized the structure instinctively. It was a Cold War era emergency shelter, the kind built decades ago and later abandoned when fear faded and funding dried up. Over the next few days, driven by equal parts curiosity and distraction from his own pain, Samuel worked carefully to uncover the entrance. Ranger never left his side. Inside, the shelter was cramped but solid, stocked with long-forgotten supplies, old radio equipment, sealed containers, and most importantly, records. Boxes of documents revealed that the shelter had once been part of a classified emergency response network designed to house medical staff and civilians during national crises. As Samuel sorted through the decaying files, something shifted inside him. This place had been built for survival, for care, for saving lives. It awakened a part of him he thought had died overseas. He cleaned the shelter slowly, repairing what he could, reinforcing weak spots, organizing supplies. The work gave his hands purpose and his mind peace. Ranger rested nearby, watching content. Word spread eventually. A hiker spotted Samuel hauling equipment. A local historian recognized the structure. Soon, officials visited, confirming the shelter's significance. What shocked everyone was Samuel's knowledge. He understood the layout, the medical protocols, the emergency systems better than anyone expected. The broken veteran by the falls suddenly became invaluable. With permission, the shelter was restored as an emergency refuge for hikers, a disaster response point, and a historical site. Samuel was offered a position overseeing its maintenance and operation. It wasn't charity. It was trust. It was respect. Slowly, Samuel's life changed. He received counseling through veteran support programs connected to the project. He spoke at local schools about preparedness and service. People who once avoided his gaze now shook his hand. The cabin by the falls was repaired with community help, not as pity but gratitude. The roar of the waterfall no longer sounded like loss. It sounded like strength. Ranger aged gracefully, his muzzle graying, his steps slower but steady. He became known as the dog who found the shelter, the loyal companion who saved not just his owner, but countless others who would one day rely on that hidden refuge. As Samuel stood one evening watching the sun set through mist and water, he realized the secret Ranger uncovered wasn't just a buried shelter. It was a part of Samuel himself that still knew how to protect, to heal, to matter. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe so these stories of quiet resilience can continue. And before you go, leave a comment below telling us what you believe gives people a second chance, because your words may be exactly what someone else needs to hear today.